Billions of people watch the World Cup, but almost nobody knows how teams actually get there. Like, we all know the tournament exists. We all know 32 teams show up and compete. But the part before that, the months, sometimes years of games that decide who even gets a seat at the table, most people have no idea how that works. And here's the thing. It's not simple at all. There's politics involved. There's geography. There's a surprisingly high number of ways a team can get eliminated before the tournament even begins. And there's one rule that gives a single country an automatic spot every single time, no matter what. By the end of this, you'll understand the whole system. Let's go. It starts with FIFA, the organisation that runs world football. Love them or hate them, they control the World Cup, and they decide how the spots get divided up. The current World Cup has 48 spots. 48 countries get to compete, and FIFA doesn't just hand those spots out randomly. They split them up by region. 6 regions, to be exact. Each one runs its own qualification campaign, and each one gets a different number of spots. Here's where it gets interesting. The number of spots each region gets is not based on population. It's not based on landmass. It's based roughly on how competitive that region's football is and how many member nations it has, which means some regions have to fight harder than others just to qualify the same number of teams. Let's break down the regions. Europe, called UEFA, gets the most spots, around 16. That means roughly a third of the entire World Cup is just European teams. Makes sense when you think about it. Europe has some of the best leagues in the world. Germany, France, Spain, England, Portugal. The competition there is brutal. South America, CONMEBOL, gets around 6 spots for 10 countries. 10 countries, 6 spots. Do the math. 4 countries that play football absolutely seriously every single time, with full squads and real pressure, go home before the tournament even starts. South America's qualifying is widely considered the hardest in the world. Africa, CAF, gets 8 or 9 spots for over 50 member nations. Over 50. You can see how this gets competitive very quickly. Asia, AFC, gets around 8 spots. North and Central America, plus the Caribbean, CONCACAF, gets around 6. And Oceania, the region that includes Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific Islands, gets the least. Sometimes just half a spot. We'll come back to that. Now, each region runs its own qualifying format, and they are not all the same. In Europe, teams are divided into groups. You play home and away against every team in your group. Win enough, finish high enough, and you go through. The group winners qualify automatically. The runners-up go into playoffs. The playoffs are knockout rounds, where one bad night can end your entire campaign. In South America, it's even more straightforward, and somehow more brutal. All 10 countries play each other in a massive league, home and away. 18 games total. You play everyone. Then the table at the end decides everything. Top 6 go directly. 7th place goes to a playoff. In Africa, it starts with a group stage, then knockout rounds. Winners of each final matchup qualify. Every region has its own quirks, its own drama, its own moment where a country that should have qualified just doesn't. Here's something most people don't think about. Playing at home matters enormously. In theory, football is football. Same rules everywhere. In practice, Travelling to a city at high altitude, in a different time zone, where the crowd hates you and the pitch is somehow always in poor condition, is a completely different experience. South American qualifiers are famous for this. Bolivia plays at home in La Paz, over 3,500 metres above sea level. Players from low-altitude countries arrive and their lungs simply don't cooperate. It is not a coincidence that Bolivia almost always wins at home. Home advantage in qualifying isn't just comfort, it's a strategic weapon. Now, remember Oceania, the region with almost no guaranteed spot? Teams like New Zealand and Fiji play in the OFC, the Oceania Football Confederation. And here's their problem. Oceania is a small region with relatively less competitive football. FIFA doesn't give them a guaranteed berth. Instead, the Oceania winner often has to go through an intercontinental playoff, a game against a team from another region, like CONCACAF or CONMEBOL, just to have a chance at qualifying. This is the part of the system that gets criticised. A team can win every single match in their entire confederation, be the undisputed best team in their region, and still have to beat someone from a completely different continent just to get in. Australia actually left Oceania over this. They moved to the Asian Football Confederation in 2006 because the path to the World Cup was more realistic. That's not a small decision. That's a country changing its football identity to improve its odds. And then there's the host nation. This is the one automatic spot we mentioned. The country hosting the World Cup qualifies automatically. No group stage, no playoffs, no 18 months of pressure. You're in. In theory, this makes sense. The host needs to prepare stadiums, infrastructure, logistics. Running a full qualification campaign on top of that is complicated. In practice, it does mean that sometimes a host country that would not have qualified on merit ends up in the tournament anyway. Qatar 2022 is the example everyone uses. Qatar had never qualified for a World Cup before. They hosted, they were in. They went out in the group stage without winning a single game. Was that embarrassing? A little. Was it unfair? That's a bigger question. There's one more layer to this. The intercontinental playoffs. At the end of the regional qualifying cycles, a handful of teams, runners-up, third-place finishers, Oceania winners, are thrown into a playoff system. They play across confederations. An Asian team might face a South American team. A CONCACAF team might face an African team. Winner goes to the World Cup. Loser stays home. These are some of the most high-stakes, emotionally devastating matches in football. Because you've played 2 years of qualifying, done everything right, and it all comes down to 2 games. Or sometimes 1. So here's the full picture. 48 spots, 6 regions. Each region runs its own competition, with its own rules, its own format, its own level of brutality. Some regions have easy paths. Some have almost none. The host gets in automatically. A few unlucky teams survive their entire region, only to fall in an intercontinental playoff. And then, only then, do you get to the tournament that billions of people watch. The World Cup isn't just a tournament. It's the final act of a 2-year story that most people never see. And honestly, that story, the qualifying campaign, the late winners, the catastrophic upsets, the countries that almost made it, that story is sometimes better than the tournament itself. If you want to actually understand football, start watching qualifiers, not just the final, the road there. If you found this interesting, subscribe. We do this for every corner of the sports world. The systems, the rules, the stuff that actually makes it all work.